Welcome to Chapter 1 in Nonprofit Organizations. In this first chapter, we're going to be talking about nonprofit organization professions and nonprofit organizations as a field of study. As I had mentioned earlier, this textbook has an emphasis on the academic view, and the research studies will be utilized to explain the concepts wherever possible. This slide is talking about the textbook again. This is the book that's written by Michael Wirth, and I would like you to read the introductory pages of the text to understand the format and the style of the author. This again is a book that has an academic viewpoint. It is based on the research facts. The discussion of issues are from various perspectives and some of practitioner information, but mostly it is research based, so that you'll understand that the approach and the style of the author, and that there are challenges in writing a text for all types of students and all types of nonprofit organizations. So if you understand the approach that the author has taken from the beginning, then you'll understand the style and the way that the material is presented. So whenever there is a study available or there are alternative perspectives, the author will take a discussion style of presenting that material to you. So it is an in-depth and comprehensive overview. There are readings, there's a glossary for the course, and there are websites. You'll see all this in the course navigation video. There are 6 modules where you read and contemplate and study and review, and then the 6 assessments in the course. And then I have included also a resource tab for you, which has a lot of additional information and resources for you to use throughout the future. So let's start by talking about the purpose of a nonprofit organization. The purpose of a nonprofit organization is to fill a mission to improve the common good of society. So we underlined common good of society, and that is the purpose of a nonprofit organization. So in this slide, we're going to talk about social impact of nonprofit organizations. They're a major organizing force. They encourage people to volunteer for their communities, and nonprofit organizations act in response to a need, and they help volunteers pursue personal goals and opportunities. So what is the difference between a nonprofit organization, a government organization, and a business? Well, in government organizations, the government organizations undertake public action for public good, whereas businesses, which are also called the private sector, undertake private action for private gain for shareholders. And nonprofit organizations, on the other hand, undertake private action for public good. They may operate under a third-party fiscal sponsor, which allows acceptance of tax-deductible donations. And so that is something that's very different between a nonprofit organization and a business or government organization, is undertaking private action for public good, and also the ability to operate under a third-party fiscal sponsor, allowing acceptance of tax-deductible donations. Why are they different? Nonprofit organizations have different goals and values than businesses and government agencies. They operate under different laws and financial systems, and they also operate with different people. They have a board of directors, and they oftentimes use volunteers. So let's review a little bit of the timeline in the development of nonprofit organizations. And in your book there is a more comprehensive history, but here's a synopsis of some of the timeline red letter dates. So in the early management theorists did not distinguish between management in business, public, and nonprofit sector. So there was really no distinguishing between those different categories in the early management theorists. But in the 1960s, there was a recognition of differences between business and public management. And then in the 1970s, there was a recognition of the differences unique to nonprofit management. In the 80s, this is the decade that marked the turning point, and that's important for you to remember. This is the decade that marked the turning point in public policy, with government outsourcing more of the delivery and management of social and human services to nonprofits. More attention was focused on nonprofits, resulting in an increased need for professional management. That's important for you to remember as well, that professional management became a major issue. Also, growing interest by students interested in working for nonprofit organizations. So students like yourself became more interested in working with and being affiliated with nonprofit organizations and contributing to the societal good beginning about in the 1980s. So that's a trend there. And then in the 1990s to the 2000s, there was a significant attention being paid to nonprofit management by scholars and writers. There's a wave of philanthropy for nonprofits fueled by the economic gains of this period. So those are important periods for you to remember as in the evolution of the nonprofit organizations, and some red letter dates. So what are the differing perspectives that we can take a look at, or the different lenses that we can view nonprofit organizations? So one would be through as a societal institution, an institution that would be responsible for preserving social values, which is an emphasis on the process, with managers as stewards of their organization or servants of society. So that's the social institution. Then there's a social enterprise, which is responsible for achieving a defined mission, which is the emphasis on results. And that is, social enterprises are like social businesses responsible for achieving a defined mission, emphasizing the results. So the first in social institution emphasizes the process, and the second, social enterprise, emphasizes the results. But there is another which integrates both, called the balanced approach, which takes a look at nonprofit organizations as a combination of social institutions and social enterprises. So what are the forces affecting nonprofit organizations in the marketplace? Well, forces will include the competition from changes in government funding patterns, how much money there's available, also, who else is competing for the government funding, how much money is available from the government in general, what is the growth of the sector, the increasing demands for accountability, and focus on organizational capacity and sustainability. So those are the forces in the marketplace that affect nonprofit organization. And what are the results of those forces? Results include emphasis on effective nonprofit organizations. So the emphasis becomes, how can the nonprofit organizations be effective, which results in increasing nonprofit professional management. So emphasis on effective organization increases the emphasis on professional management. The larger the nonprofit organization, typically the greater the need for professional management. Now in this slide, we talk about the growth in the study of nonprofit management, and this was a study by Mirabella in 2007, which is talked about in the text. And these are some of the statistics that came out of that study. 426 nonprofit programs in 238 colleges and universities. The undergraduate programs increased by 36% between 2002 and 2006, and graduate programs increased by 26% between 1996 and 2006. So that shows you the tremendous growth in the study of nonprofits that this particular study determined. Undergraduate and graduate level programs are increasing, and most of the programs, the majority of the programs, are offered through the College of Arts and Social Sciences or schools of public affairs and administration. Not so much in the business schools, because nonprofit organizations are unique to themselves. Nonprofit oversight is a very young professional field of study, so it hasn't been around all that long as a unique field of study by itself. There's an increasing interdisciplinary educational approach to the study of nonprofit organizations, and that is something that you will see in more and more colleges and universities in the future, as there continues to be growth in the study of nonprofit management as a field in and of itself. So what about nonprofit careers? What are the challenges and the rewards of having a nonprofit career? Well, let's talk about that. So you have the ability, when you work for a nonprofit organization, to contribute directly to the improvement of society. That is the foundation of working for a nonprofit organization, is that commitment to helping improve society. Our value systems are such that appeals to people who are drawn toward working for a nonprofit organization or in the nonprofit sector. This is an area in which you can help resolve difficult social problems that aren't easily solved. So there's a challenge for a lot of people who are drawn to this field. You have to integrate mission, strategies, and acquisition of funding resources, complex and multiple pressures, and can sometimes lead to burnout. So that is something to keep in mind as a person who might be interested in a nonprofit career, that balance is critical, because there are additional challenges in this area that are unique to nonprofit organizations, with the integration of the mission, developing the strategies, which we'll talk about more as the class goes on, the acquisition of funding, looking for grant funds, and looking for philanthropic contributions to the organization, which is unique to this particular area. Leadership skills are required, which include skills such as the ability to negotiate, compromise, and to have a high tolerance for ambiguity. Because it's different, again, you're not in a manufacturing business, you're in a nonprofit organization, which things may not be clear at all times. Relationships must be developed amongst various stakeholders. So you will have a relationship with the board of directors. You will also be working with volunteers, customers, and the general public in a nonprofit organization. So management of a nonprofit organization has a double bottom line. The double bottom line is unique in a sense to a nonprofit organization because you have a social bottom line, the ability to achieve a mission, as well as a financial bottom line, which is the ability to meet the financial bottom line. There is great satisfaction and personal reward in working with nonprofit organizations, helping others make an important and positive contribution with your life. So this is the last item on this list, is probably what draws most people to the nonprofit field in terms of a career, is the satisfaction and personal reward with helping others and improving society.